Okay, so hello and welcome to Let's Play Zeus, Master of Olympus. I am Psyduck Mantis. Now this is the third time I've tried to do this in about 24 hours. I've been having a few issues with it, but I think I've got them all sorted now. The issue before was mostly just a lag issue, but I found through the what is it? The interactive elements, whatever the company name for it is now, I forget. But I'll post a link to the subreddit where I found it. But there's a hack that somebody's made that basically allows you to play this in more modern resolutions, which seems to have fixed my lag problem. I had a little playthrough earlier, and it was running so much faster, and it looks so much better now than it did before. So hopefully this will actually be enjoyable to play and watch, because to be honest I wasn't really enjoying playing it yesterday with horrible lag. It wasn't anything like I remember it being. So without further ado, let's go. So this is a city builder game from one of the companies is Sierra Interactive. I'm not sure if that's the publisher or if that's the studio that made it, but Sierra, I think it's either Sierra Entertainment or Sierra Interactive. And they made games like Caesar and Pharaoh. They're probably their most famous ones. And this is very much in that vein. It's in the same series, but this one's set in ancient Greece. And I absolutely loved this game as a kid, mostly because I was obsessed with Greek mythology. So it was a lot of fun. One of my favourite parts about this game is that you can build sanctuaries to a Greek god, any of the Greek gods, and they will actually sort of wander about your city like they're real, and they'll sort of cast blessings on your buildings and generally help you out. I mean, for example, Ares, the god of war, if you build a sanctuary to him, both him and his dragon will wander around your town protecting them, and also they'll give you 2 sets of Ares elite guard which you can use as soldiers, so it's pretty good. And you can also send Ares and his dragon on missions with your soldiers to sort of back them up. So that's just an example of what you can do. So as you can see, I've already put my name in here, and like I said, I did play around with it earlier. The lag issue should be fixed now, but we'll see how we go. If we do get massive lag, I may just have to exit the game and load up again, because it was working fine before, but switching between windows earlier did cause an issue in which when I came back into the game, it was so laggy, like it was even worse than it was before. But hopefully now we should be fine just on this window. And yeah, like I say, if something goes wrong, we'll start again. We'll exit the game and load it up again, and hopefully that'll sort it. But I'm pretty confident that the worst of it is behind us. Alright, so there are 7 adventures. I don't know how many's in each one. So this is the first one. It's got 8 episodes. So that's essentially 8 sets of goals, and then you complete that one set of goals, you move on to the next one. For example, that's 6, 8, 5, 7, 5, 6. Okay, so around about 6 or 7 seems to be the average. The first one was going to be relatively easy, and it's going to be 8 episodes, but we'll get going with this one first.
Follow a cow? The priestess from the oracle said to follow a cow? A peculiar command, to be sure, but then the priestess is never wrong. She promised that great things would come to the person who follows her cow until it lays down to sleep, and then builds a city on the spot. This person will be able to achieve something that 4 powerful men failed to achieve, and finally bring Europa back to Greece. The beautiful Europa was abducted years ago by a white bull, and has not been seen since, and thus the priestess's bovine-centric prophecy came to an end. The cow did not choose a very good spot. She fell asleep a short distance from a hideous multi-headed serpent that purportedly belongs to Ares. The monster is always ravenously hungry and eats everything that comes near him. Building a city here won't be easy, but the promised reward is irresistible.
Okay, so that's like the little introduction bit. So our goal for this episode is population of 1,000. Should be pretty easy. I'm fairly confident we'll be able to hit that with not too much time at all. So yeah, you hit to the city. We're going to stay on mortal. That's the default difficulty level. First thing I'm going to do is hit pause, because the game does tend to run quite fast now. So we're on 100. I'm going to lower that down to 80. I may change that, but for now we're going to leave it paused. So this is the main game map, and if you did watch the sort of failed stream from yesterday, it looks so much nicer now. There's so much more space. You can actually move around so much easier. There's no sort of lag with it. Yeah, this is more... I mean, I'm sure the original resolution was how it was when I was a kid, but it's kind of like Metal Gear Solid, for example. I don't remember that being quite as blocky in its graphics as it was. You kind of look at things through rose-tinted glasses. But this is more how I remembered it. It's quite a nice looking game. Fairly simple, fairly basic, but yeah, some nice art assets. So, as I said, this is the main map. I've got at the top here, you've got File, where you can save, load, start again. Options, so it's got difficulty, which we may change. If I'm finding things too easy or too difficult, I may fiddle with that, but I think Mortal is probably fine for my first run through in quite a few years. We're going to leave autosave on, just because this is very old games from 2000, so I have no idea when it could crash, where something could go disastrously wrong. If the lag gets so bad I can't even save and exit, then I may just have to Control-Alt-Delete, end the process, and then we'll be very glad that we had autosave on in that case. Hopefully it won't come to that. I'm reasonably confident. Messages, you can say which messages pop up, but we'll leave it as it is for now. We're not going to touch anything. We're just going to leave it as is for the time being. One thing I have found a little frustrating is if you do click a thing like that, you have to click something. If you click one of these tabs, you can't click away to get rid of it. I don't know if that's because of the hack that I've got, or if that's how the game always was, I don't remember. But once we click it, we can then just... okay, no, right, I figured it. You right-click. Right-click gets rid of that, so there we go, that's better. Alright, so as I said, this is the main map. So you've got the main map here, and then you've got the current date, that's your population, and that's your money in drachma. So these tabs along here are basically things you can build and different aspects of your city. So first one, population. You can see supplies. These tabs here will come into effect once we actually have buildings. Right now, it won't change anything. So yeah, as you can see, how much housing we've got for people, how sort of desirable our city is to live in, and any other factors. You can look at more sort of detailed information. You can get a population history graph. We're not going to touch most of that now, but at some point we may want to have a look at that just to see what's going on. And then you can see all we can build at the moment. Not everything's unlocked yet. Things will be unlocked as we go through the scenario. But all that's there at the moment is common housing. And that's the main housing we'll be using. Husbandry, so this is food, basically. You can see how many people you can support, how many months sort of backup food we've got. And then you can see there's different sections, so farms, herding, orchids. So all food, basically. Industry, so that's things like marble, copper, I believe also, yeah, olive oil press. And you can also set the wage rate, how much money you're bringing in, how many people you need. So if you've got unemployment, or if you've got a lack of employment, like you need workers, you can see it there. And you can also set, which is very useful, especially in the early game, you can set priority. So if, for example, you're missing 100 workers, but you want to make sure that you're definitely pumping out enough food, you can set that to high priority, and it will fill up all of the workers that husbandry needs before it goes to the other section. So it will make sure that husbandry has 100% of the people it needs before it looks at things like industry, storage, hygiene, etc. Which is very useful. And you can also shut down entire industries from this screen as well. So then you go into distribution. So distribution is things like storehouses, so granaries and storehouses, and also agoras, which we will come on to later, but it's basically a marketplace. It's how you get food and supplies to your people, and also trading posts, which we will also touch on later. Hygiene and safety, so that's fairly self-explanatory. It's things like water, water fountains, infirmaries, watch posts, so that's like the police, and maintenance officers, which basically make sure that your buildings aren't going to collapse, which can be quite frustrating. Administration, again, you can set tax rates, you can see what sort of coverage tax you've got, so it will say how many people have been visited by a clerk this year. And this is also very useful because you can see your expenses so far and your income so far. So you can see if you're set to lose money or if you're making money. Obviously, we'd rather be making money, but you know, That may not be possible at the beginning. I expect we'll drop quite low on funds, but we will pick it up once everything's sort of up and running. Culture is effectively, it affects how well things develop, how much your housing will develop, how nice a place it is to live in. And it also affects a few other things like getting heroes to join your city. Sometimes you have to hit certain targets. You also have Pan-Hellenic games, so you have the Olympic Games every 4 years, but you also have the Pythian Games for drama, the Nemean Games for athletics, and the Isthmian Games for philosophy. So there's a game a year, and if you win, you get an extra, I think you get a reputation boost, and there are also some heroes where you need to have won a Pan-Hellenic game in order to get them to want to come to your city. So yeah, we will be building culture, but that's not a priority right at the very beginning. First thing we'll be thinking about is getting some housing, getting some food, and that's pretty much it. Making sure that nothing's falling down, everything's nice and safe and healthy, and then we can build up sort of the... It is a necessity culture, but not in the very, very start, it's not. I mean, 10 minutes into the game it will be, but not at the beginning. Mythology, right now we have nothing we can build, but I love the mythology aspect of this game. It's what really drew me to it. So you can see what gods are attacking your city, what monsters are attacking your city, and also what sanctuaries you've got. So you'll be able to see what gods are in your city. And if a god attacks your city, your gods will help fight them off. If a monster attacks your city, you'll need to bring in a hero. So that's someone like Theseus or Hercules, a hero from Greek myth. You can build what's called a hero's hall. And like I was saying, you have to hit a certain number of objectives or a certain number of criteria before that hero will come and join your city. But none of them are really difficult. It's, you know, it's all doable. So military, there's not a lot we can do right away. All we can really build is walls and gatehouses and stuff like that, but we're not going to worry about that straight away. If any other cities do attack, we'll probably just pay them off, because we've got a fair bit of money in the beginning, obviously this being the first scenario, and we're not in a position to build our own soldiers yet. To build soldiers, you need what's called elite housing, so only the richest of the rich will become soldiers. Your common people, they can become kind of a rabble army, but they're not very effective, and you can't send them to other cities. So to be honest, if anyone attacks early on, I'm just going to pay them off, because they'll just wander around, they'll destroy some cities, destroy some buildings, and they may capture our city and make us a vassal, which will mean we'll have to give them more money in the future, which I do not want to do. Aesthetics is basically how pretty the city is. The later parts of the housing, they won't develop any higher unless it is a certain beauty level. So that's really all this is for. And then you've got an overview. You can get the overview map to stay there. Obviously you don't see as much detail about these, but you can have the overmap on all the time. I may have that there for now, because I quite like having the overview map just always there. It's quite a useful thing to do. You can reorientate, so you can sort of change which direction you're looking in. You can see it says west, south, east, so you can keep an eye on where you're looking. And you can look at the episode goals, so population of 1,000, and you can also see the goal status, which is quite useful, so you can see sort of how close you are. That's pretty much it. You can build roads and road blocks, so you can stop. I mean, if you've played any of these city builders before, you'll know that you get workers that wander around and have to pass by certain buildings in order to give their effects to that building. So if you can put roadblocks in place so that they don't go wandering off in places where you don't need them to. I mean, if they were just wandering off down an empty road and not seeing to the buildings you want them to, it may be a long time before those buildings actually get coverage, and they could collapse, which would be terrible. You can also review any messages, and then you can also see the world map. Now obviously this game wasn't designed to be played in this this resolution, so as far as the game is concerned, Turkey doesn't exist. The Anatolia just cuts off, and that's it. But this is us with Thebes. Anyone with a little red flag is our ally. Anyone with nothing, I believe, is either our rival. Yeah, they're either our rival or they're just indifferent to us. Alright, so these guys hate us. Doesn't like you at all right now. But we've got a few allies, so that's quite nice. Knossos here That, I believe, is a distant city, but not one we can trade with. Whereas Libya is a distant city, but one we can trade with. So we can build a trading post for Libya, sorry. But we can't for Knossos. I'm not sure why Knossos isn't... It's part of the scenario that it's not, but I'm not sure what their reasoning behind it was. I don't know why Knossos wouldn't be available, but it's not. So. But yeah, from this screen, you can see what... It's not so much with the rivals, but with your allies, for example. They buy onions and marble, so we could sell that to them. And they sell fleece and sculpture, so we could buy this from them. And different places buy. For example, they don't sell anything, they just buy. Whereas these guys buy something different to Caledon, for example. As far as what you can do interaction-wise, you can request goods or money, depending on how much they like you, so it's their attitude towards you. That will depend. That will define whether or not they're going to say yes or not. And if you ask too much, or you keep asking, even if they say yes, their attitude towards you is going to go down because you're just taking. Same time, you can give a gift to them. So if there's anything they need, you can give it to them, or you can just give them drachma, and they'll like you more for that. If they have any ongoing requests, sometimes they'll make a request that you don't have the supplies for right away, so you can postpone it for, I think it's 12 months. It's either 12 months or 6 months. It may change depending on... Sometimes you have things like famine where they need it right now. But most things you can postpone, and then you can come to this screen if you want to fulfill that request. And you can also go on raids, so you can just sort of steal things from them. So if, for example, these guys, we may need wine later on. No one else sells wine, but these guys produce it. But they won't sell it to us because they're a rival. But if we get soldiers, we can send them on a raid, and they'll come back with a ton of wine, and then we'll fulfill our need. Obviously, they'll hate us for that, but they're our rivals, so what do we care? You can also conquer them, so that'll turn them into vassals if you're successful. I mean, you may not be successful. That'll turn them into vassals, which is pretty useful because then they will have to pay... Well, A, they'll have to trade with you, they won't have a choice, and B, they will have to give you tribute. So that could be a certain number of goods a year, or that could be drachma. But that, I think, about covers it. So let's jump straight in. Now, as you can see, we've got things like wood. We may need that later. We won't need that right now. We've got some wolves over here, so they'll attack any sheep we make. The purple spot on the overview map, and as you can see, little purple flowers everywhere, that's meadow, and that's the only place we can build things like farms. So I would say up here is probably the best place to put our food district, because that's where the meadow is, that's where our farms can go. So our housing district will probably be fine around about here. I would have thought. We've got some more meadow over here. You know what, we'll start with... Let's start with... Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this road into a boulevard. So it takes up more space, but it makes the area generally prettier, more aesthetically pleasing, or more appealing, I suppose, which will help houses level up in the later on. I like to do this just because, A, yes, it is expensive, but it means that you're not trying to squeeze in like bits of park around your cramped housing later on. Whereas if you space it out nicely now, it's not, you know, it kind of solves that problem before it becomes a problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag that down there, and then we're going to we are going to lay some housing here, I think. Yeah, we'll lay a bit of housing there. That should be fine. And then we'll put another load down here. This is just going to be our initial housing section, so I may change this. And we're going to drag this down here so we can turn this into boulevard. Yeah, so now that's connected to a road, so that's fine. And then we're going to drag these guys down here as well. And that should be okay for sort of an initial housing section. Yeah, that should probably be fine. Trying to decide if I want to join this up here. I think what we want to do, we're going to want a water fountain, and we're going to want an infirmary, and we're going to want a maintenance office. Now, I'm not sure if this is necessarily the optimal place to place these things, but this is where we're going to go for now. May as well make this boulevard. Alright. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to stick an agora. So like I said, an agora is a little bit like a marketplace. So what you do is you place it on a section of road and it kind of juts out to the side. Yeah, I don't think you can do it now, but later on in the game it unlocks a better agora where basically you can have it covers both sides. Gives you more place to place stalls. So what stalls are, let's put it there just because I want to have the option of dragging this off if I need to add more things later. So like I say, you put stalls on, so you put food vendor. What the food vendor will do is, there's a lady in a green jacket, she'll go off to your granary, she'll pick up any food that's stored, she'll bring it back, and then a little man in a trolley will come out, start wandering the streets, and any houses he passes he will give food to. And he will also give fleece, because obviously we're going to have a fleece vendor there as well, and an oil vendor. You don't need wine for the common housing. You don't need wine at all to get them to upgrade. That's only for the elite housing later, but that's not going to be something we worry about straight away. So for now, olive oil, fleece, and food will be fine. So their little guys will go off, collect the goods, bring them back, and then a man with a trolley will wander around. And yeah, make sure the people are getting what they need. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place a roadblock here. Yeah, I'm going to place a roadblock there so that the Agora man doesn't go wandering off up this road, because this is where we're going to put our food facilities. The trolley man doesn't need to go. The roadblock won't stop anyone that's going to a specific location. Like, the trolley man is just wandering around at random. He'll go wherever he can. The people going to collect food are specifically going to get that food, so they'll ignore the roadblock. They'll just walk straight past it. We just want to stop the trolley man from going too far. And this will also stop these guys from wandering off up there as well. So this will keep everyone sort of contained in this area here, which is exactly what we need early on. Now, the distance really doesn't matter too much. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to keep as far away from those wolves as possible. So let's start with, we'll go with, wheat farms are good, but they only get harvested once a year. Now that can pose an issue in that if the amount isn't enough to see you through for the whole year, then for parts of the year your people will be starving while they're waiting for the wheat to regrow. So we'll start with 4. We'll start with 4 of these. And we'll also make some dairies. Yeah, we'll go with 4 dairies as well. Okay, so because I've got it paused, the game hasn't really registered that these exist yet, or that there are goat herds. So we can't make the goats yet, but we'll place the goats as soon as people have arrived. So that's that. What we're also going to want here is, we're going to need some fleece as well. So we'll make some carding sheds as well. Alright. Now, to store these things, we're going to need a couple of storehouses. Now, I think what I'm going to do to begin with is I'm going to right-click this storehouse, and I'm going to set it so this one does not accept fleece. And I'm going to make it so that this one does not accept olive oil. So early on, all of the fleece is going to go to one, all of the olive oil is going to go to another. It's not necessary to do that, but when you've got a lot of goods later on, it's really useful to be able to say, oh, this is my storehouse for marble, this is my storehouse for such and such. It's nice to keep it separate so you can see at a glance. I mean, you can see at a glance through these screens, but it's nice to be able to go to it and say, okay, you can see visually, that's how much marble I've got. Oh, I've got that much olive oil. Oh, I've got that much fleece, etc. And then you know if you need to place any more, then you can. So placing the goats and the sheep up here should be far away enough from these guys. And as long as the shepherds or the carding sheds are employed, we'll have enough shepherds to keep the wolves away. So that shouldn't be an issue.